She told him to return when he was older. He did, and the galaxy would never be the same. HFY Sci-Fi. The boy stood at the edge of the forest, the air around him glowing faintly with strange lights. He was no more than 14 years old, small and thin, with eyes wide open to the stars above. He had wandered farther than his village allowed, following the sound of whispers that were not quite human. He found her there, standing beneath the silver trees. She was taller than any woman he had ever seen, her skin glowing faint blue, her hair flowing like liquid light. She looked at him as if she had been waiting for centuries. "You are too young," she said, her voice calm, yet carrying weight, like thunder far away. "Return when you are older, when the stars themselves know your name." The boy did not understand. His heart pounded in his chest. He wanted to ask who she was, why she spoke to him as if he mattered, but the words would not come. She stepped closer, her presence filling the clearing. Her eyes were deep, endless, not cruel but not gentle either. "You will change everything," she whispered. "But not yet. You must grow, you must bleed, you must learn the cost of power." Fear and wonder burned inside the boy. He wanted to stay. But her gaze pushed him back, as if the universe itself refused to let him take another step. With trembling hands he turned away, running through the dark forest until he reached home. That night he dreamed of her. In his sleep he saw stars burning, fleets of ships exploding, worlds falling into silence. He saw himself standing in the middle of it all, older, stronger, different. The dream felt real, too real. Years passed. The galaxy ignored Earth. To the great alien empires, humanity was nothing more than a young species, fragile, noisy, and unimportant. The humans were tolerated but never respected. They were not seen as warriors or leaders, only as workers, traders, and wanderers. But the boy remembered her words. They stayed in his mind like fire carved into stone. "Return when you are older," she had said. He grew with those words inside him. Every challenge, every wound, every loss only made them stronger. He trained as a pilot when he was old enough. His hands learned the weight of a starfighter. His eyes learned the speed of light battles. He fought in border skirmishes. He saw friends die. He saw enemies fall. And still her voice remained, echoing through the years. Sometimes at night, he wondered if he had imagined her. Maybe it was a dream. Maybe it was the wild hope of a boy who wanted to be more. But deep in his heart, he knew she was real, too real. The galaxy darkened as he grew. Rumors spread of empires preparing for war. Old rivalries sparked. Alliances broke. Across the stars, powers gathered their fleets. The humans stayed small, caught between giants, their colonies vulnerable, their ships outnumbered. Still, the man who was once a boy prepared. His body was scarred from battles, his soul heavy with loss. Yet his eyes carried the same fire. He had learned to wait. He had learned to grow, just as she had told him. And then, one night, as he stood alone beneath the same sky where he had first seen her, the air shimmered again. A whisper came through the wind, soft but powerful. "You have returned." His breath caught in his throat. She stepped out of the shadows of the stars, unchanged, her glow still radiant, her presence still vast. She looked at him and smiled, not with warmth, but with recognition. "You are ready," she said. "The galaxy will never be the same." The man felt his chest tighten. He knew that this was not the end of the journey. It was the beginning of something greater than himself, greater than Earth, greater than all the empires who had dismissed humanity. He did not know what was coming, but he felt it, the storm, the fire, the destiny she had spoken of. The words echoed inside him again, stronger than ever. Return when older. He had, and now the galaxy would remember his name. The man had grown strong. His name was whispered among human soldiers as a leader who never bent, never broke. He had flown through burning skies, fought in battles where others had given up. Yet when she appeared again, it felt as if he was once more that boy staring into the glowing forest. She did not look older. She did not look weaker. Her voice was the same calm thunder. Her presence stretched beyond the moment, as if she was bound not by years but by eternity. You have carried the fire well, she said, watching him. But fire alone is not enough. The galaxy does not fear fire. It fears change. He frowned, his scarred face showing doubt. Why me? He asked. His voice was steady, but inside he trembled. I am only one man. Humanity is small compared to the empires. How can I change the galaxy? Her eyes glowed brighter. Because you are human, she whispered. Because humans grow where others decay. Because you do not bend to destiny, you shape it. He stood silent. The stars above seemed to lean closer, as if listening. She stepped nearer, her light brushing against his skin. The war is coming, she said, and when it breaks, the empires will crush themselves, they will fall into chaos. But you, she touched his chest lightly. You will stand where they fall. The man swallowed hard. Memories of lost battles, dead comrades, and broken colonies weighed on him. Yet her words pressed into him like iron shaping steel. For years, the galaxy had laughed at humans. They were the youngest race, reckless and weak. The grand empires dismissed them as noisy children playing with ships too small to matter. But the man knew different. He had seen his people fight when cornered. He had seen them adapt faster than enemies expected. He had seen them refuse surrender even when every star seemed against them. She began to walk, her steps silent across the starlit ground. He followed. They moved through an empty plain that stretched like a sea of silver dust. There are others watching, she said. Others like me. Some believe in you. Some fear you, but all of them know the same truth. Humanity is not what the empires think it is. He clenched his fists. If war comes, Earth will burn first, he said. The empires will target the weak, the unprotected. They will crush us before we can stand. She turned, her gaze sharp as blades. That is why you must be more than a soldier, more than a pilot. You must be a symbol. The word struck him. He had led men, but he had never thought of himself as more than flesh and bone. A symbol was something greater, something that lived even when the man was gone. You doubt, she said softly. Good. Doubt keeps arrogance away. But remember this, the galaxy has forgotten what it means to face humans who fight for survival. It will remember soon. He stared at her, realizing that she did not speak like a prophet giving hope. She spoke like someone who had seen it, who had already watched the storm unfold. Tell me, he said, why did you wait? Why not guide me when I was younger? Why not show me the path earlier? Her expression shifted for the first time, carrying something like sorrow. Because children dream, men decide. If I told you then, you would have followed. If I tell you now, you choose. Choice is the core of humanity. That is why you matter. The man felt the weight of her words, heavier than any weapon. He realized that all his battles, all his scars, had not been punishment, they had been preparation. Behind them, the sky cracked with distant thunder, not from weather, but from engines. A fleet passed through the upper atmosphere. Alien warships moving in formation. Their shadows fell across the silver plain. He looked up, jaw tight. The war she spoke of was no longer distant. It had already begun. She looked to the sky, her voice calm as the thunder rolled. The galaxy will not give you time. You must take it. The man nodded slowly. A fire lit in his chest. Not the fire of a soldier, but of something greater. He did not know what awaited him. But he knew one thing. Humanity would not be silent in the coming war. And as the alien fleet vanished into the night, the woman whispered once more, her words carrying both promise and warning. When the galaxy looks back on this war, it will not remember the empires. It will remember humanity. The man stood still, staring at the stars. His choice was made, his path clear. What began as a boy's encounter beneath the silver trees was now the first step toward a destiny that would shake every world. He had returned, and the galaxy would never be the same. The man returned to his outpost, but he was not the same. His soldiers noticed the fire in his eyes, sharper than before. His commanders saw the weight in his words. As if he carried secrets of the stars themselves, he did not speak of the glowing woman. Not yet, but her presence followed him like a shadow. The galaxy trembled on the edge of war. Rumors spread like fire, An ancient empire to the east had begun to push its fleets outward, crushing smaller worlds. To the west, rival powers answered with their own armies. Soon the stars would ignite in battles that no one could escape. The humans were caught in the middle. Earth's colonies stood scattered like fragile lanterns in the dark, each one vulnerable, each one overlooked. The larger empires did not fear humans. They thought of them as pawns to be traded, slaves to be broken. But the man knew different. He had seen human strength. He had seen it rise when all logic said it should fall. Now he understood why she had chosen him. One night he sat in the command hall. The maps of star systems glowed across the walls. His fellow officers argued over defense lines, numbers, and supply chains. None believed humanity could stand in a full galactic war. And then he spoke, his voice calm, steady, but carrying a force that silenced the room. "We do not fight to win as they fight," he said. "We fight to survive, and survival is stronger than conquest." The room grew still. Some laughed nervously. Some shook their heads, but others leaned forward, drawn by the quiet certainty in his voice. For the first time, humanity began to look at itself not as prey, but as something more. Later that night, she appeared again, not in the forest or the silver plains, but in the command hall itself. No one else saw her. She walked between the soldiers unseen, her gaze fixed only on him. "You are beginning to see," she whispered. "War is not only weapons. War is story. If they believe humans can endure, then you already win." He clenched his jaw. "Belief does not stop fleets," he answered. "Belief does not stop fire raining on our colonies." Her smile was faint, almost sad. "No, but belief can turn prey into predators, and predators are remembered." He looked at her, and for the first time, he did not feel like the boy she once spoke to. He felt equal, though still unsure of what she truly was. Days later, the war reached them. Alien fleets crossed human borders, small colonies burned, distress calls screamed across channels. The outpost where he served was suddenly thrust into the center of chaos. The first battle came without warning. A squadron of alien warships descended on the sector, confident that humanity would flee. The man led the counterattack, his starfighter cut through the dark, his command sharp, precise. His soldiers followed him not because they had to, but because they believed. Against all odds, the alien squadron broke. Ships that once mocked humanity scattered, some destroyed, others retreating. The galaxy would call a small battle, but for humans, it was the spark. News spread quickly across colonies and stations. Whispers grew. They spoke of a man who stood against fleets and did not bow. They spoke of a commander who turned weakness into strength. They spoke of a voice that told them humanity would endure. In the quiet after the battle, the woman appeared again, standing by the edge of the starfield. Her eyes burned brighter than the dying suns. "Do you see now?" she asked. "The galaxy is watching. The war has begun, and so has your story." He stared at her, exhaustion heavy on his shoulders. "I am one man," he said. "How long can one man carry the weight of humanity?" Her answer was soft, "Until they no longer need you to carry it, until they carry it themselves." The man closed his eyes. The stars above were no longer distant lights. They were battlefields waiting for fire. He knew more battles would come, larger, deadlier. He knew that victory was not promised. But deep inside, he felt the shift. Humanity was no longer silent. Humanity was no longer prey. And as the war spread through the galaxy, the words she once spoke returned to him, carrying both promise and warning. "Return when you are older." He had, and the galaxy had begun to tremble. The victory at the outpost was small in numbers, yet it shook the galaxy like a hidden drumbeat. The alien empires had expected humans to fall silent, to surrender, to hide. Instead, word spread that human ships had forced a retreat. It was only a handful of enemy vessels, but stories grow faster than facts, and soon whispers carried across star systems. The man became more than a soldier. He was no longer just a pilot, no longer just a commander. His name began to move between colonies like a spark across dry grass. They called him the Returner, though he never told them why. Some said he fought like he had already seen the end. Some said death itself feared him. But he knew the truth. He was only a man, shaped by battles and by her words. He carried scars not only on his body but on his soul. Yet every time he felt his strength falter, he remembered her glowing eyes and the command that had guided his whole life. Return when older. The galaxy's war deepened. Empires clashed with each other, burning planets in their struggle for dominance. Whole fleets vanished in ambushes. Alliances fractured in shadows. The humans, caught in between, were tested on every front. The man led missions into impossible territories. He and his soldiers struck where no one expected. Small human ships darting between massive enemy cruisers, striking and vanishing before retaliation. The empires grew frustrated. They had the larger fleets, the heavier weapons, but the humans refused to break. The woman appeared again, this time on the bridge of his flagship. The crew did not see her. Only him standing silent, his eyes fixed on an unseen figure. She walked slowly across the floor, her glow touching the steel walls. "You are becoming what I saw," she whispered. "The galaxy does not yet understand. But it will." He clenched the railing. "We cannot hold forever," he said. "Our fleets are small, our weapons old. Every victory costs us too much. We win battles but lose friends." Her gaze softened. "That is the price of change," she answered. "Empires are built on arrogance. They believe strength comes from size, from power, but you know different. You know strength comes from will." The man lowered his head. His mind echoed with the faces of those lost, their laughter, their courage, their final screams in burning ships, each one a wound that never healed. Yet each one was also a reason he refused to stop. The turning point came with the siege of Belt. 3 alien empires sent their combined fleets to crush a chain of human mining colonies. They expected it to be a swift slaughter. The humans had few ships and little defense. But under his command, the colonies did not scatter. Instead, they fought with every weapon, every trick, every ounce of human will. Civilian freighters became traps. Mining lasers became cannons. Old ships rammed into enemy cruisers, exploding in fire. The battle raged for days. And when it ended, the humans had not been destroyed. The alien fleets withdrew, battered and humiliated. The galaxy blinked in disbelief. For the first time, the smallest race had defied the greatest powers in open war. Across the stars, whispers became shouts. The name of humanity spread. The Returner became a legend, not just to humans, but to alien races who secretly longed for hope. On the night after the siege, as the fires of wrecked ships drifted through the void, the woman appeared again, standing beside him as he looked out from the observation deck. "You see," she said, "the galaxy will never see you the same again." He turned to her, his face hard. "You said I would change everything, but at what cost? Every day we lose more. Every day I bury brothers and sisters. How many must die before the galaxy understands?" She placed a hand on his shoulder, her touch both heavy and light. "Change is never free," she said. "But remember, you do not fight only for now. You fight for tomorrow, for those who will never know your name, but will live because you chose to stand." The man closed his eyes, her words cut deep, not with comfort, but with truth. He understood now. The prophecy was not about him alone. It was about humanity itself. The galaxy had underestimated them, and now it would pay the price. He turned back to the stars, his voice low but filled with steel. "Then tomorrow begins with us." And in that moment, the galaxy shifted again. The siege had ended, but the war had only grown darker. Humanity had won, yet the cost was heavy. Broken ships floated in orbit like silent tombs. Names of the fallen were carved into memory. The man carried them all in his heart, and their weight pressed on every step he took. But something else grew alongside the grief. Across the colonies, across the scattered fleets, a new spirit awakened. People no longer whispered in fear. They whispered in pride. They whispered of survival, of defiance, of the Returner. He did not ask for the title. He did not crave it, yet it spread faster than fire in dry grass. And soon, even alien tongues repeated it. some with mockery, some with fear, but always with attention. It was then that the woman came to him once more, not in battle, not in shadow, but in the quiet of his quarters. She stood where the starlight fell through the glass, her form glowing like she was made of the stars themselves. "You are more than a man now," she said softly. "You are a bond, a symbol. Humanity rises through you." He shook his head, weary. "I am no symbol. I am flesh and bone. I bleed, I break, I doubt." She stepped closer, her gaze deep and endless. "That is why you endure. Symbols without scars are empty, but you carry scars, and scars speak louder than crowns." For a long moment he stared at her. The bond between them was strange, not born of love nor command, but something greater. She was not human, yet she had become his constant shadow, his guide, his mirror. She did not save him from battles, but her words gave shape to his will. "Why do you care?" he asked at last. "You are not human. You could have chosen anyone, any empire. Why me? Why us?" Her expression did not change, but her voice carried weight. Because empires rot, they build on arrogance until they collapse. But humanity suffers, and in suffering it grows. You're not the strongest, not the oldest, but you're the most dangerous because you adapt. He looked away, but her words struck him deeper than any blade. For the first time, he began to understand why the galaxy had always dismissed humans. It was not because they were weak, it was because the empires feared what they might become if tested. Soon after, the man was summoned to a council, not of humans alone, but of alien leaders, lesser races who had long lived in the shadow of the empires. They came seeking him, not as a conqueror, but as a voice. They had heard of humanity's stand at Karen Belt, and they wanted to believe. The council chamber was tense. Alien eyes glared, scales glittered, wings twitched, tusks curved. No one trusted one another. All carried centuries of betrayal. Yet when the man spoke, the hall grew still. "We are not here to replace one empire with another," he said. "We are here because survival belongs to those who stand together. Humanity will fight, but not alone, not anymore." Some scoffed, some sneered, but others listened, for in his voice they heard not arrogance, but truth. That night, when the council ended, he stood alone on the balcony, and she appeared again, watching him silently. The bond between them felt heavier than ever. "They will follow you," she said, "not because of your fleets, not because of your weapons, but because they see themselves in you. They see pain, loss, and yet the will to rise. That is what binds." He turned to her, searching her glowing face. "And you? What binds you to me?" For the first time, she hesitated, her gaze lowered, her light dimming slightly. "Because once, long ago, my people forgot how to rise. We chose stagnation, and we paid the price. But you, humans, you remind me of what was lost. In you, I see what we once were." The man felt a strange ache in his chest. He did not speak of it, but he knew then that she was not simply a guide. She was tied to humanity's fate as deeply as he was. Their bond was not just prophecy. It was destiny. From that night forward, the man was no longer only a commander. He became the voice of something larger. His words forged alliances, his battles inspired unity, and the woman walked with him always, unseen to others, but never absent. The galaxy began to shift. Worlds once silent under oppression now stirred. Lesser races rose beside humans. Empires that had ruled unchallenged for centuries now looked over their shoulders. For the first time, they feared not each other, but humanity. And in the shadows of the stars, the woman whispered once more, her voice carrying across his soul, "You have returned, and together we will break the chains of the galaxy." The man clenched his fists, his eyes burned with fire. The bond between him and her was no longer mystery. It was the weapon that no empire had foreseen. And with it, humanity would rise. The galaxy burned. Empires that once thought themselves eternal now tore at each other's throats. Worlds that had shone for centuries were reduced to ash. Fleets that once stretched across star systems now broke into pieces, lost in endless wars of pride and greed. And yet, in the center of chaos, humanity endured, no longer prey, no longer the youngest race begging for recognition. Humanity stood as something greater, not because of their numbers, not because of their weapons, but because of their will. The man who had once been a boy guided them. He spoke not of conquest, but of survival, not of glory, but of unity. His words reached beyond humans. They touched other races long oppressed, long forgotten. Species that had hidden in shadows now stepped into the light, drawn to the fire of his voice. For the first time in galactic history, ships of many races flew under the same banner. Not an empire's crest, not a tyrant's seal, but the symbol of survival, the emblem of humanity. The great empires noticed, and they grew afraid. They had fought each other for millennia, but none of them wanted to face a united front. They mocked the idea of humans leading. Yet fear gnawed at them. For every day the alliance grew stronger. The woman appeared to him again, this time not in shadow, but before the gathered leaders. She revealed herself at last. Her glow filled the chamber. Her presence silenced even the most arrogant voices. Some feared her, some worshipped her, but all listened. "You see humanity as small," she said, her voice echoing like the stars themselves. "But they're the storm you never expected. They're the flame that refuses to die. You may call them weak, but weakness sharpened them. You may call them reckless, but recklessness taught them courage. And now, they will not rise alone." The man stood beside her, and in that moment, no one laughed. War came swift. The largest of the empires, tired of whispers, moved with full strength. Thousands of warships descended. Their cannons burned suns, their engines darkened skies. They came not only to defeat humanity, but to erase them. The alliance wavered. Some races wanted to flee, to surrender before the storm, but the man stood before them, his voice steady. "If we fall, then every world after us will fall. If we stand, we show the galaxy that no empire, no tyrant can erase us. This is not only humanity's fight. This is survival itself." His words struck deep, and so they stayed. Ships that had never flown side by side now formed walls of steel. Weapons of 100 species fired as one. The battle began. The void burned with fire. Stars disappeared under the shadows of fleets. The clash was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The humans led the charge, small ships weaving between massive enemy cruisers, turning weakness into advantage. Alien allies followed, emboldened by their defiance. The man's flagship moved like a blade through the dark. His commands echoed across channels, precise, unyielding. His soldiers followed with unshakable faith. They no longer fought for him alone. They fought for a future they could finally see. Hours turned to days. The battle stretched. Victory seemed distant, yet the alliance refused to break. Again and again the enemy threw their fleets forward. Again and again they met walls of resistance. And in the heart of chaos, she stood beside him, unseen by most, her presence like fire against his skin. "This is the storm I told you of," she whispered. "This is the fire you were born to walk through." He gritted his teeth, his eyes locked on the burning void. "And we will walk through it together," he said. The turning point came when the humans unleashed something new. Not a weapon of destruction, but of courage. Civilian fleets joined the fight. Freighters, miners, traders, every ship that could carry a gun. They filled the skies, ordinary people standing beside soldiers. The empires faltered. Their strength was vast, but their will was thin. They could not match a force that fought not for conquest, but for survival. Not for power, but for life. The battle raged on, but the balance had shifted. For the first time, the greatest of the empires knew fear. And as fire spread across the galaxy, the man realized the truth of her words. He was not chosen to destroy the empires alone. He was chosen to awaken something far greater. Humanity was no longer the forgotten race. Humanity was the storm. The final war raged across the stars. Worlds burned, fleets shattered, empires crumbled under their own arrogance. Yet still the alliance stood, bruised but unbroken. Humanity, once dismissed as weak and noisy, now led armies of 100 voices. The man stood at the heart of it all, no longer just a soldier, no longer only a commander. He had become the symbol the galaxy could not ignore. His face was carried on banners. His voice echoed through broadcasts. His name was spoken in hope, in fear, in awe. But the empires would not surrender easily. They gathered what remained of their power, uniting in desperation. For the first time in centuries, enemies who hated each other fought together, not out of trust, but out of terror. Their target was not Earth alone, not humanity alone, but him, the Returner. The final battle began at the edge of a dying star. The void filled with fire as fleets collided. Millions fought. Millions died. Yet through it all, humanity endured. Their ships smaller, their weapons weaker, but they were stronger than iron. On the bridge of his flagship, he stood with eyes fixed on the burning horizon. The woman was there too, her glow fierce, no longer hidden in shadows. She looked at him with something close to pride. "This is the moment," she whispered, "the moment I saw when you were a boy, the moment the galaxy changes forever." He breathed deep. His hands trembled, not with fear but with the weight of destiny. "And if I fall?" he asked. Her gaze softened. "Then humanity will rise without you. That is the truth you must accept. You are the spark, but sparks create flames, and flames do not die with the spark." The battle shook the star itself. Ships were torn apart. Stations collapsed into fire. The empires fought with all they had, desperate to break the alliance. But humanity did not yield. Every man, every woman, every ally fought, as if the universe itself depended on them. At the height of chaos, the enemy fleet launched a final strike, a weapon of devastating power. It tore through the void, aimed at the heart of the alliance. The man's flagship was in its path. Death was certain. Yet in that instant, he made his choice. He ordered his ship forward, not away. He knew what it meant. He knew what it would cost, but he also knew what it would give. His sacrifice would shield the alliance. His death would be their survival. But as the weapon closed in, the woman raised her hand. Her glow blazed brighter than ever before. For the first time, the crew saw her, a being of light standing beside their commander. Her voice thundered through the ship. "Not yet." The weapon struck, but it did not destroy. Her light absorbed it, twisted it, shattered it. The flagship trembled, but remained whole. When the light faded, she was weaker, her glow dim. Yet her eyes still burned. She looked at him and whispered, "You were ready, but I could not let you fall. Not here, not now." With renewed fury, the alliance struck back. Humanity led the charge. Ships poured forward, enemies scattered, and for the first time, the great empires broke, their fleets collapsed, their rule ended. The galaxy was free of their chains. Silence fell after the battle, not the silence of death, but the silence of change. The man stood before the united fleets, scarred, weary, but unbroken. He raised his voice across the stars. "We are not children. We are not prey. We are humanity. And today the galaxy has learned what that means." The cheers that followed shook every world. Humans and aliens alike raised their voices. The alliance was no longer fragile. It was reborn in fire. Later, when the stars grew quiet again, he stood alone with her, her glow faint, her strength weakened, yet her smile carried peace. "You have returned," she whispered, "and the galaxy will never be the same." He looked at her, his chest heavy with gratitude and sorrow. "What happens now?" he asked. She gazed at the endless stars. "Now humanity writes its own destiny. My part is done. Yours has just begun." And as she faded into light, her final words lingered in his soul, words that would echo through every generation. Return when older. He had, and the galaxy would never forget it.